tuning PIDs. In supporting documentation, we've outlined what PIDs are, how they work, and why the PID equation can be so useful. We also went through closed feedback loops to give a better sense of the PID tuning technique we're showing off in this video. For more information, see the PID Basics documentation to use as a primer for attempting PID tuning on a control system. Today we're going to show step-by-step how to tune a Conviron control system and explain the advantages of using this approach versus traditional tuning techniques. Important note, the following PID tuning technique is a recommendation and a great starting point that works well for steady-state control. If the set point does not change, control is nice and flat. When the set point does change, the response of the system can be too slow, resulting in excessive overshoot. Once you reach this point, the PID values will need further adjustment to dial in the responsiveness of the system. Any subsequent adjustment comes down to experience and differs depending on the system being tuned. Step-by-step approach. This approach is easy to use and works in any situation. If it's performed correctly, it's always successful in tuning control systems. It's much more focused than other current techniques, so think of it as using a sniper rifle versus using a shotgun approach. Technique. This diagram is a real tuning exercise used on a real Conviron control system. First, choose a set point that's much higher than your actual readings. For example, with temperature readings of around 20 degrees, choose 30 to 40 degrees as a set point. It must be quite a bit higher than the actual, so that we can adjust during the process. A good rule of thumb is about 3/4 higher than your actual reading. If we have a range of 0 to 50 degrees, and your reading is about 20 degrees, then 3/4 is about 40 degrees. Please note, each of these steps takes around 10 to 15 minutes depending on the size of the system you're affecting. It may take longer or shorter to react depending on the size and the design. This can be done for any closed loop controller that's giving you feedback from a closed loop, and you can control that reaction. When you start this technique, you follow the trend graph for the outputs as in the diagram shown, because the trend graph will guide you through the various steps until the right equation is found. The idea is to start at 0, find your proportional or P value, then find your integral or I value, and then finally find your deviation or D value if applicable. A first step is to deactivate the whole equation by putting the P, I, and D to 0. Run your system and get a flat reaction with all values at 0. A second step, now you can start to find your P value. Set P to 1. The PID starts to react and output puts some effect on the system. Curve starts moving towards the set point, but will go stationary at some point before getting to that set point. It will stay flat at this point until you change the PID value again to 2. Please note, when raising P, normally it's smart to start at 1 and raise it by 1 or 2 each time. These are standard increments. The third step, you increase P to 2. Same as before, it will start moving towards the set point and go stationary again. The next step is to increase P to 3 and watch as it moves towards the set point but still quite far off. Advance P to 5, wait for it to go stationary, but in this example, we see it then starts to oscillate, indicating it's gone too far. We reduce P back to 4, wait for it to go stationary, and notice it's again oscillating, indicating it's still too high. We reduce it again to 3, and once stationary, it finally stays flat. Next, we add to the I value. Please note, when increasing the I value, smaller values will add larger amounts of energy, and larger values add smaller amounts of energy. First, we increase the I to 100, and we notice the curve overshoot the set point, as too much energy has been added. We increase I to 1000 to pull it back, and it will drop below the set point reading, but we notice it's too low. If we decrease I to 500 to ramp it up a little bit, not as much as 100 did, and notice it goes up closer to the set point, but not quite enough. Keep changing the I value up between 500 and 1000 until it stops oscillating and crosses the set point, then sits flat on the set point as displayed. In this example, 900 is the correct I value to get to this point. In most situations, your deviation or D doesn't need to be used at all for the technique to work. Summary. We've covered the following. Outline why this PID tuning technique works so well. We went step by step through the PID tuning technique for tuning P, I, and D. This technique should work for any control system. It shouldn't matter if this is a Conviron or Argus control system. Thanks for watching the video, and look for more in the Conviron Control System series, coming soon.